January has been an interesting month for fans of the OHL IceDogs, with some games postponed and others being played in an empty arena. Our YourTV Broadcasting team had some unplanned days off. We're joined now by play-by-play announcer Steve Clark, color commentator Ed Burkholder. Steve, we'll begin with you. What's it like calling a game in an empty arena?
I'll be honest with you, Mike. I thought it would be a lot more different than it actually is, because you don't get that buzz that you usually get before the game with the fans and singing the anthem and fans cheering when players are introduced. But what I found, though, was once the game began and you kind of got 30 seconds in, then the game became the game. And I found that when I broadcast, at least do play-by-play, I do kind of block out the crowd to a certain extent. So now doing it without any actual fans in the arena is not as different as I thought it would be. Usually I'm able to anticipate when there's a good play, and the fans help with that because they'll gasp or ooh or ah or cheer or something like that. And that part's been missing. So I thought, am I going to be overselling a moment or underselling a moment because I don't have the crowd to back me up? But it actually has been a lot easier than I thought it would be.
Ed, same kind of question to you. What's it like for you to hear all the sounds directly from the ice throughout the entire game? You're hearing the sound of the sticks. You're hearing the sounds of the breath being blown out of somebody as they're crushed into the boards. What's that been like?
Yeah, it's been a bizarre experience, to be honest. I agree with Clarky that, while the game's going, it's kind of hard to, we don't really pick up on a lot of the fan stuff because I hear Clarky or Al or calling down to Darren. So we're kind of secluded in our little world. There's things that you might find later if you rewatch the broadcast. Oh, wow. Because we're not really plugged into that side of it. The one time we were doing a post, I actually heard myself breathing on the air. It's how quiet it was. And then the one time Clarky and I just finished and Al was doing the close, and we could actually hear him up in our booth from down in the corner. We didn't have our earphones on. We could actually hear him talking. So it's quite quiet. And the noises are definitely different. There was a couple of hits there, hey, Clarky, that it sounded like thunder. You get a more realistic, view of the game by the sounds that, wow, this is a pretty, intense game when these guys are crashing into each other. So it's been different. Obviously, we prefer the fans there. It just gives it that full, feeling and experience. But hopefully the job that we're doing, for the fans that are watching on TV are getting that full experience of being at the game.
Ed, you have a big week coming up, and if all things go as planned, 3 games this week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. How do you stay up for 3 games in 1 week?
It's one thing. It's neat. Clark and Al always hear me talk about the game of hockey, and it's shift by shift, really. So you try not to concentrate on the whole week and just take it one game at a time, and obviously do your preparation and show up to the rink ready to work and just take that one shift at a time. And I think that's an easier way of getting into it. And it's interesting too, you talk about keeping, the excitement, or you got 3 games and you're thinking, but you have to, my philosophy is if it's the first time they ever hear us, or if it's the last time they ever hear us or see us. And if you keep that kind of fresh in your mind, you end up being energetic and do your homework and bring a fresh approach to it every game.
January 31st, the team will be allowed to have 500 fans in the stands. After that, it goes to a lottery beginning February 21st for 50% capacity. Steve, do you think that's the right way to treat this situation? And how do the IceDogs handle the season ticket holders in this situation?
Well, I don't envy their job. I can tell you that much. Ed will tell you in business, I'm sure that customer service and customer retention is at the topmost of any business plan or business model. So I think the IceDogs will be very careful. They'll be very respectful. They've always treated their fans really, really well, and they'll lay out the situation. And I think they'll be fair to people. And I think generally speaking, the fan base will be understanding of the limitations. I wish I wish they didn't have just 500 people for 2 or 3 weeks and then jump up to half the capacity. I wish they'd kind of gone 50% right away, because I think that's a manageable number, in my opinion. And I do actually feel for these owners who are losing revenue, and they'll lose revenue by having 500 fans as opposed to half the people in the building. But, the Ice Dogs, they'll do their due diligence. They'll make it fair. They'll offer it up. Maybe they'll take it, a longest serving season ticket holder, and offer up that opportunity and experience first, and then they'll take it from there. I don't know how they're going to handle it, but I know they're going to be very careful and very respectful to their fan base, because they've always been that way.
Ed, I'm going to switch gears here. I'm going to give you a chance to talk about something that's near and dear to your heart. I know I've seen some posts from some of the players for January 26th, which is Bell Let's Talk Day for mental health. That leads me into your check yourself, express yourself. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. It's something that I started in 2012, and I love the Let's Talk Day. I'm a huge supporter of it, but I feel that it's 365, really. I mean, these are things we need to talk about every single day. And the more stories that I hear, the more comfort it brings me personally. If you get down and Mike, if you and I have a conversation, you and I have in our last interview about, being aware of that person being plugged in, so that if I see you, Mike, and you're feeling a little bit down, I'm going to say to you, Mike, what's going on? Like, let's have a chat about it. You might not want to, but the fact that I plugged into you, and the fact that I'm aware that you're not, maybe being yourself, is a huge step. So if we could kind of just, be awake, be aware of that person next to us, instead of always plugged into a phone or thinking about something else, think about that person beside you, stimulate a little bit of conversation, whether it's, let's go for coffee, whatever. Everyone has a story, and I think it's important that we share it. So I'm a huge supporter of it. I know Clark is, I know our whole crew is too. And it's one story at a time. We can really change each other's life.
Steve, Ed, I'm happy for your own mental health that you're back in the booth after a 2.5-week layoff. And I know our YourTV IceDogs fans are very happy as well. Thanks for joining us today.